you, John, for that song you wrote for us this morning, surrounding your travels and your journeys and the awakenings and the awareness of all the things that are sacred and are great. It feels good to be home. It feels good to be in this space that we're in. I remember being a part of conversations about when are we going to be able to get back in church and get back to normal and those kind of things. And I remember thinking within myself that we need to slow down and we're moving too fast. When I think about the things that have happened over the past year and a half, I think about them in a place where it's still so close, it's hard to really see the perspective of it all. And so I imagine that when I see something up close, it's hard to really focus in on, but when it's moved back far away, there's different perspective. And so I believe as time goes on that I'll have different perspectives of this time, this COVID time, this civil rights movement time, this Black Lives Matters time. Things will shift and change within me, I'm certain. Val and I were talking this morning, and Val had mentioned something that we all know and we all have recognized, is that church is changing. And church has been changing for a really long time, and some of us have been dragging our heels and not wanting to change and evolve and shift and those kind of things. And for someone that lives in the same culture and also in a different culture, I know that things have to constantly evolve, and I constantly have to shift and change, and I have to assess safety for myself as a person who identifies as being female, as a person who identifies as Black. And so I know that change is constant in every situation I go in, and I assess and I do an inventory. So I want us to be able to hold space for us being together, and also hold space for all the changes that have happened where we are today in this space that many of us call home and feels sacred and safe to us. So my talk today, I've titled WISH. And WISH is an acronym that I've created that stands for wisdom and inventory and self and habitat. And so when I think about habitat, I think about ecology. And when I think about ecology, I think about the benefits of diversity in ecology, because we have to have a diverse ecology in order for the ecology to survive, in order for the community to survive, in order for the community to live. There has to be diversity in our habitat. And so when I think about habitat, I think about habitat in community, I think about habitat in church, I think about habitat in the world, and I have this wish. And I want you all to just conceptualize wish. And the first time you heard this idea of wish and what wish means to you. And so I can say the first time that I remember wishing was with my older brother, Desi. And our grandfather had given us a wishbone out of the turkey that he had made for Thanksgiving in our house, his house, their house on Cedar Grove Court in Portland. And so I don't know if you all are familiar with Cedar Grove Court in Portland, but my grandparents lived on Cedar Grove Court in Portland in this little mini mansion back in the day when Black folks didn't live in Portland. And my grandfather gave us this wishbone, and we pulled it and we broke it, and whoever gets the biggest piece, I mean, you all know the thing. So wishbones, and who gets the biggest piece, you know. And the other times I remember about wishing are at birthday parties. Making a wish and blowing out the candles, and you close your eyes and you do this thing, and you would wish for this thing to happen, this hope to happen, this thing to really come true. And we believed that thing. We had to have, Because if we didn't believe it was going to come true, we wouldn't have wished. We'd have been like, poo-poo, I'm not making a wish this year. I don't want your wishbone. Take it away. Or when you get the dandelion that people call weeds, but we know all the medicinal purposes of the dandelions and that they're edible, and we can make tea out of the roots, and we can blow on those little seeds, and we can make a wish. And if an eyelash falls out, we take it and we put it on our finger and we blow and we make a wish. And when we see the cardinal bird that is our state bird, and we see it and we make a wish. And so when I think about this word wish, I think about the wisdom in that, the lore in that has traveled through, the inventory in that, because typically we're wishing for something that we don't have or something that we want more of. And the self in that, because we're creating this wish possibly for others, but it comes from internally, it comes from ourselves. And we're in this space where we're making this wish of this thing that grew out of the ground, or this thing that grew out of our eyelid, or this cake that somebody prepared, and these candles that somebody made out of this wax with this wick in it. It just didn't just pop up. There was this process before we made this wish in this environment of the things that we wanted. And so I say that it takes this curiosity to make a wish. It takes this courage to make a wish. And when we wish for something, it may be for ourselves, but it also impacts other people. And so that's the ecology of it. So in the inventory of our lives, in the inventory of where we are right now today, I think about the things that I'm gonna keep and the things that I'm gonna get rid of. And so some of the things are things that I think that I need. And so over this civil rights period of time that we're in, that we've experienced before, I've thought about what I needed, what I don't need, when I need to go outside, when I need to come in, when I need to do a click list, when I'm gonna go in the grocery store. It's all very delicate in how we move through this time, but we take these inventories. And so in this wish, I would encourage you to use the wisdom and to use your self-inventory and to reflect on self and the habitat and take credit for what is yours, and for the things that aren't yours, not to take credit for. And so growing up, I remember hearing the term my bag. And so my bag said that this is my bag, this is my stuff, this is my baggage, it belongs to me. And then sometimes people would say your bag, but sometimes it might not even be your bag. It might be somebody else's bag. But also the inventory of what's mine, what's not mine, what do I want to keep, what do I want to get rid of, and using the wisdom to decide. So when I was a kid, there was a woman who lived in Louisville that I don't hear very many people talk about, but I woke up with her on my mind this morning. And her name was Mother Borkin. And so Mother Borkin was a beautician in Louisville, and she had various shops in the West End, and she made hair grease. And my mother used to send me to her to get my hair fixed. And my brother used to have her grease and used to sell it. So before recycling was super cool in Louisville, and there was these orange containers, and now we have these new blue lid containers that are really black, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with that big black container because I already got a garbage can. But before all the recycling, Mother Borkin used to get baby food jars, and she would put her grease in the baby food jars. She would put a label on the jar, and she would put the lid on the jar. And so there used to be really tiny baby food jars, and then medium-sized baby food jars, and big baby food jars. And so my brother would sell her grease. So Mother Borkin has now passed on, but I saw Mother Borkin from probably when I was about 10 years old until I was about 17 or 18, and then I used to still go and visit her in her house. So Mother Borkin one time said to me when I was about 11 years old, she said, "You're a wise one." Well, no one no one in my family had ever given me that type of compliment. No one in my family. And Mother Borkin just didn't tell me that. I think at some point she told my mom that, because my mom brought it up to me when I was about 17 years old. So she told me at 12, my mom told me at about 17 years old. So my mom had heard this from this very wise woman, this black woman, this entrepreneur. Her hair grease is still sold today, and she has been dead for a really long time. And the significance of her telling me that shifted me. That was part of the inventory and the wisdom and the self and this ecology of who this diverse woman was to me, that was older, that she gave me, that propelled me just in life. Whenever I would make a stupid decision, because I did and I still do, I would think, Mother Borkin said I was wise. She said I had wisdom. And I held on, and I hold on to that. And so in holding on to that, I'm able to share that story with you all today. Many of you that probably don't even know her. There's nothing on the side of the buildings downtown that represent people that are from Louisville that says anything about Mother Borkin. But if you Google her, on her grease that's not in a baby food jar, her image is on there with a big fancy hat and her smiling in this way that she would smile. So I think about what is mine and what is other people's, and what is mine and what is other people's, and what is my inventory when I take inventory of myself, because I have to do that often, and I would encourage that we all do that often. And in this time of confusion and uncertainty and of change and of recalibration and of people feeling however they feel about if you wear a mask, if you don't wear a mask anymore, let me hug you, I don't want to hug you, let's hold hands, let's fist bump, and all these changes that are happening that are stretching us to be more than what we've ever been before. I've never lived through a pandemic. I've heard of crisis. I've heard of epidemics. I've never lived through anything like this. And right now it's still so close. I don't know what the impact is going to be, but I know that I'm grieving. I'm grieving. And I also know that I'm celebrating and I'm wishing for a lot of good stuff to happen. And I know that I never want to go back to the way things were. And so when I hear people say, we need to go back to normal, we need to go back to the way things were, and I'm like, for who? Who was benefiting there? Who was benefiting back to the way things were? And so I know that sometimes we have to be still. And so I listened to this contemporary Christian song that I listened to when I was younger, and it was Be Still and Know That He is God. I don't know if I think God is He anymore, and you know, I could go on and on and on for that dogma, but the be still and know that God is God. And we're created in the image of God. And so us being still and knowing who we are and exercising our higher purpose when we're using our wisdom and we're taking this inventory of self and we're being acknowledgeable of the entire habitat. So in the 1800s, Charles Selden created this book, right? And in this book, there was this list of what would Jesus do. Now, I know some of us remember this in the 90s and the armbands and stuff like that, but before the armbands, that was the resurgence of this thing. But before the armbands, there was this book about what would Jesus do. And so I remember having these armbands around and other people having these armbands around, and they were like questioning, like, what would Jesus do? You know, in a situation, what would Jesus do? And so with those statements, that question, what would Jesus do? That was wisdom. Like, let me reflect. Let me use my wisdom. Let me do an inventory. Let me remember some of these parables. Let me think back on some of this stuff and be in myself and then reflect it back out into habitat so that I could probably be a better human. And so this wish is to be a better human, to be wise, to take inventory, to look at self and reflect on self and to reflect on habitat. And so we think about history, and we all have a history that's connected to this church, and even if it began today, and this is your first time here, we all have this history. And so often, some people want to forget about certain history or certain people's history and embrace other people's history, but it's all our history. It's our stuff. It's the stuff that we need to remember, so that we know, that we remember, that we can reflect, that we can remember how uncomfortable people felt when the people were living under the viaduct. And some of the chaos that was created, and the fear that was created in the church, and those kind of things. And the people are gone, for the most part. They're gone from underneath the viaduct. And I think, the people are gone from under the viaduct. Where did they go? And so then I wish them fulfillment, and I wish them happiness, and I wish them resources, and I wish them to be valued, and I wish them, for ones that are alive, for people to walk by and wave at them and smile at them, or send them positive energy, or say under their breath that I love you, and that you are created by the same creator that created me, and I have this wish for you. Not that you just go away and I don't see you, but that I see you. And so when we truly live these principles that are us, that are unity, that says unity, that we're unified and that we are together. And so we know that we can't go back. And we know that some of us, like me, aren't really ready to move too much forward. And so I thought about this Palm Pilot that I had. I'm telling you, I'm waxing nostalgia today. So I thought about this Palm Pilot that I had. And I don't know if you all remember, but it used to have to calibrate. And the target had to be in the middle. And so remember, sometimes you used to try to cheat and hold it in your hand and it wouldn't calibrate right. So you had to lay it down flat for it to recalibrate, and then you could use it again. And so I think that I'm at that point in my life with my being still and knowing that God is God. I'm not really ready to take off my mask and run through the streets and hug the people and those kind of things. I just need to be laid flat and to recalibrate and do the self-inventory of where I am and where I need to heal and who I need to be going forward in my life. And so I think about Iyanla Vanzant, and I thought about this quote that she says, "It is time for you to move, realizing that the thing that you are seeking is also seeking you." So whether I'm laying here and I'm recalibrating, I know that that thing that I'm seeking is also finding its way to me. And so I have this wish for you, that the thing that you are seeking, that you know that it's also seeking you.